Hello everyone, the stonks. The stonks are happening. There's absolute stonks afoot right now. Welcome to the video. As I record this, we are in the midst of absolute stonkery. Obviously it'll take a while for this one to come out, I don't know what the situation will be, but I did want to just acknowledge it because it's very funny. And I had sort of been looking for an excuse to do this, so it dawned on me that extra survival mode is a thing that exists. And I did test this beforehand, but we're going to be charade in extra survival mode, and therefore, like every round, it will cycle through a different fun new weapon for us. Not just a different moveset, but like an entire different weapon about it. And we have to see how long we last. Let's do that. Oh god, the stonks. So just to explain the situation about the stonks, because it's a bit of a fucking wild one. So this hedge fund called Melvin Capital, a shit den of fuck rags, essentially made a bet that Gamestop stock was going to tank. Because that's what they do, that's how they make their money. They just gamble on entire companies going down the shitter and whatnot. Well, okay, attempt number 2. I did it! I showed up. So basically how places like Melvin Capital make their money is they borrow shares from a broker for a company whose share value they think is about to go down. Then they sell them, wait for the value to go down as predicted, then buy them back for cheaper. They keep the profit and they give the shares back to the broker. And obviously selling the shares drives the value of the shares down, so it's not just gambling, they're actively trying to destabilise this company so that they can profit off of it. So now Reddit gets involved, and there's a trading subreddit who basically said, fuck that, and started en masse buying up GameStop stock to raise the stock prices and basically ensure that Melvin Capital would lose its little wager, which apparently it now formally has done. So, yay. And Wall Street is losing its shit. So, and are now, after probably more years than I could count, lobbying against regulation. Now that the poors are making money off of it at their expense, they're like, oh fuck, maybe we should do a regulation to stop this. A bunch of trading apps, most famously Robinhood, there's one called Robinhood, which is just fucking ironic, have suspended trading on the stocks of the companies that are involved in this. So they're just now trying to rig the bet back, essentially, is all that is. And a bunch of small traders, people who, you know, had money to invest in stocks, but like not a whole bunch. Like some of them will have like $15 worth. You know, just people who might conceivably have needed the money. I've been fucked by a lizard tonight. Snooping around, just having a little look. It is difficult to do both of these at the same time, is what I'm learning. It was a good idea in theory. That anyone trying to do trading who isn't already super rich, anyone who might hubris, anyone who may conceivably have needed the money, they are now learning that any benefit the stock market had to them was like they are meat shields to justify the continued existence of the stock market. And any benefit it may have had to them was not only unintentional, but clearly genuinely unwanted. So this has been a real fucking moment So yeah, the free market doesn't actually exist, it transpires. And the world was aghast. I really nearly fucked the moon there with my shepherd's crook and a crab flag. I want you to remember, we should have been Yoshimitsu for this, because he's a sort of Robin Hood type figure. Maxi! I'm amazed Maxi hasn't come up, and oh, I've got a soul edge about you. Oh god. It eats my health bones out of me, though, right? So I really need... I need you to hit me less. Okay, let's be about this with a civilized axe. Piss that. Right now in the beach today we see. This has sort of helped another thing, a sort of financial theory, click into place for me, because the stonk situation is really the last piece of the puzzle I needed to like finally properly wrap my head around this theory called the tendency of the rate of profit to fall. Oh yes, I'm going to do a bit of a Marx at you right now. So this is one of his. This is one of the many studies he did. He was predominantly an economist, is what people forget. Like, most of his work is actually just describing capitalism. So, and in this case particularly why it's basically destined to eat itself, because it really kind of doesn't have any other choice. So, how do I explain this while not die? Oh, you just get a normal one? Oh, fuck the ocean. Go back to bed and seek the Seabull. Seabull? Seabull's wobble underwater now. Right, I've got... No, I'm doing it. I'm going sideways, alright? One pokey. Yes, you did fuck the ocean this time. Well, a port, anyway, in a little cove. I'm meant to be explaining the tendency of the rate of profit to fall. So, essentially, to remain competitive, companies have to continue to invest in themselves. Shit, it's already going wrong! Ah! Oh, you did a little wiggly leg dance! It's all that it fucking took is wiggly legs. So, competition demands that companies invest a certain amount in themselves, whether it's like just any means that it can to ensure that profits go up, like increasing production or reducing cost in some way, or like investing in automation or like some sort of efficiency measure like that. Okay, and they have to do this because they need the profits to increase. Eventually there's a limit on what of that you can do without just laying off staff. But you need the staff, like you need like a population outside of yourself to have money to spend on you. This is a really bad explanation. Oh, it doesn't actually pause. I was trying to collect my thoughts, but I can't. I'm doing wiggle sticks. So what I sent, like, you need... The first explanation I ever saw of this was, like, trying to express it all as an equation, and I couldn't quite piece together what it all correlated to in my head, really. Like, it wasn't great at expressing it in real terms, in my opinion. But essentially, the system inevitably ends up neglecting the workers. And, like, all companies are expected to do this, so this is all workers this inevitably happens to. Fuck you! Right, fuck all that. Alright, it hit me. I went away after I finished recording and it hit me a better explanation of it, so I'm recording a new one to just sort of insert somewhere in the middle. So, the tendency of the rate of profit to fall originates from this other idea called the labour theory of value. which states that only labour can create value within capitalism. So it's essentially like you need people to do something with a thing before it becomes valuable, because otherwise it just sits there. Like, you can have all sorts of resources and all sorts of tools, but unless someone picks them up and does something with them, they're just objects. Like, they're not going to just become valuable on their own. Like, no one is going to buy a barrel of crude oil just to have it. You know, or at the very least, they would have to be exceptionally fucking weird. It's like that, it's got no value until somebody does something with it. So, and the reason that sort of tripped me up is because I actually think it's slightly a misnomer, not much, but slightly a misnomer to, like, refer to it as labour in that scenario, because it sort of gives you the impression that it's only the people, like, directly working on the thing. When I think when we, like, I'm no expert, you know, clearly, but when we say labour in this context, I feel like what we actually mean is the working class in its entirety, and I'll sort of explain what I mean by that later. But, aye, don't interrupt me by being a big green man when I finally know what I'm talking about a bit. Woo! Floating up in the air. Ooh, I'm springing now. You'll never interrupt me again, I'll poke you into the ground. I don't know why, but this guy specifically is an impediment to me explaining what I mean, so get rid of him. Now then. Fuck, oh, those cute little weapon images in the bottom left of the screen of everyone you're beating. What was I bloody getting at? So, yeah, the reason I bring that up, that it's, like, slightly misleading to think of it in terms of, like, the labour directly being performed, is that, you know, you inevitably get the response to that, automation. And it's like, well, yeah, somebody needs to, like, design and build and maintain that stuff. And then some chud fuck will be like, yeah, but what if Daddy Musk does us a robot that does itself? And, like, A, it's moot, because he hasn't, we don't live in that world, and B, he wouldn't, he'd pay someone else to do it, because Elon Musk is not smart, he was just born into an apartheid mining fortune, and can afford people who are. Oh no, it gives me a fuck every time I believe. Well. I was hoping for more, yeah, I've got more things I need to say. But let's say, for the sake of argument, that you could have that. Right? You've managed to get this perfect setup of machines that somehow just repair themselves and do all of the work for you. You don't need a single worker on site anymore. You've made all of this product without the need to pay anyone to make it. Well done, you. If nobody buys it, it's worthless. It's just sitting there. None of what you've built will mean anything if nobody buys it. And nobody can buy it because nobody's getting paid because you've automated everything. And that is sort of what the equation, I think, is meant to demonstrate, is that if your investment in things outweighs the investment in people, then the whole thing starts to fall apart, because now there's nowhere for the money to come from. Because, like, that's the one thing you can't automate, is just, or at the very least it would be pointless to automate, and you'd basically be admitting that money isn't real and this entire system was unnecessary in the first place. So, I'm gonna be killed! I was killed. So, yeah, that's essentially what I wanted to get across. I guess I'll throw you back to the episode as it was recorded. So you might think that you could just game theory the whole thing and just have, like, some sort of agreed upon ceasefire between all the capitalists, which that's not gonna fucking work. If one of them sees an opportunity to fuck over everyone else to profit themselves, they're gonna do that, because that's what capitalism incentivizes. There is literally no incentive for them to do otherwise under capitalism. You're just sort of expecting them to do it for no reason, to their own detriment. Simply because it's the right thing to do, like that's ever fucking mattered to them. But my point is, I'm Raphael now, you're fucked. So here's the thing about that, is there is an aspect of that that is outside the company's control, and that's where the stonks come in. Because shareholders expect the stonks to just go up in... Well, no, it's not even that. Here's the thing. Companies need the stonks to go up indefinitely. Because when the stonk prices stop going up, that means from the stonk holders' perspective, that, you know, the value of that particular stonk is now as high as it can go, and it's time to cash out. Because that's the most amount of money you're going to get from selling that stonk, and then you can just buy it up again later when it's cheap again. And again, this is how capitalism is supposed to work. Like, this is incentivized. But the consequences of this are obviously very bad for the company whose stonk is now being sold en masse. So, like, it necessitates this sort of rise and fall of everyone. That's what it is. It's capitalism is designed around the ideas that these companies are eventually going to fail, and so just in order to continue to exist under that system, these companies have to find any means they can to stop the stonk prices from sinking, so they don't get fucked over by the stonkhead market. And so will inevitably fuck over the workers, because that's literally the last thing. There's a limit to how much the technology that exists that can, you know, increase productivity or profit otherwise. I've been fucked over by Blacksmith. So the stonks are more or less why. And it's also just a fucking bizarre casino that evidently we can change the rules of at any point, and have just chosen not to up till now. But you'll do it when it, you know, when ordinary people on Reddit pool their buying power, and, you know, this actually starts benefiting people at the bottom. Like, people actually find a way out of all of the money being drained from, you know, the general population, thus avoiding the inevitable collapse as predicted by the tendency of the rate of profit fall. Soon as that starts happening, then we can change the rules, then regulation's allowed. And it's all just very funny. God! I think this is going to be my last attempt. Yeah, I don't know that... I don't know that this video had any value, gang, but it's very funny to see how it's all transpired. Anyway, I'll do one more while not trying to explain the stonks and see if that affects my performance any, and then if it doesn't, I'll just give up and accept that I'm bad at the game. So we now all know the stonks of the situation. Let's just go in once for the fight of it. We've got walls this time, we've got big cage at them. I've got a lovely thing. Let's go. I'm gonna hit you with it about it. Come on, proddy. Proddy. Oh, that's not what I thought that did. Here it is. There we go. Now that's a better start immediately. Just blue sweeps going off right about now. One problem with all this is that it does take a tad longer because it's having to switch Charade's weapon every time. It just takes a bit longer between rounds to load everything up, which is somewhat annoying, but we will persevere for the sake of it. Boof. Boof you in the bonk with a morning star to defeat you about it right now. So yeah, I think the takeaway from this is a lot of people are going to tell you that this is actually really bad and that you shouldn't be laughing. But the thing is, like, this is how those people said they wanted the world to work. They're only now complaining because it's... that fucked it up the moment I started stonking off again. But yeah. The thing they perceive as the problem is not that, like, people's finances are getting toyed with, but that they specifically are no longer coming out on top. And then, of course, there's just the usual gaggle of weirdos who's bought into the lie even as the free market is revealed as fabrication before their very fucking eyes. Yeah, there's always a couple of grifters who think they're going to be let on the top rung. But yeah, it is funny and you should laugh. Because the point of this system was to fuck you over either way. There's no version of this where you come out on top. There certainly isn't supposed to be. So please do enjoy laughing at the funny stonks. So right, that's me done, essentially. I've done a bad job at the game, and probably a bad job at explaining the stonk situation. But nevertheless, I hope you enjoyed your time here laughing at a stonk about it, and I shall see you the next time the stonks crash. Which could be anywhere between 2 weeks and 2 minutes at this point. What a fucking time to be alive. Bye for now.